Join the zone Saturday, June 1st for Dino Day at all Sinclair locations. Fuel up and save up to 30 cents per gallon on top-tier premium fuel with Dino Pay plus free Dino swag on June 1st. DJ and PK, it's time to welcome Barry Tramel back to the show. Barry, good morning.
Hey, how you guys doing in Salt Lake?
We're good, but that's not the question. The question is, how are you doing? Are you feeling well?
I'm doing fine. I'm starting a new job this very day.
Yeah, we've heard about that. Goodbye to the website, back to the paper.
That's right. Joining the Tulsa world. Today's my first day on the job, and in fact, I've just driven over, entering Greater Tulsa as we speak. So, for the Utah people who don't really know their Oklahoma geography, we've got two major cities in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And Tulsa is not quite as big as Salt Lake or Oklahoma City, but still a thriving city with a legacy newspaper that's still kicking, going strong. So they have hired me, and I'll be doing the very same things I've been doing, covering the Sooners and the Cowboys and the Thunder. So looking forward to it.
So you don't have to move?
I do not have to move. No, I couldn't. I could have moved, but my wife would not have gone with me, so that was
that's not
that
good.
was a non-starter.
Yes.
So I got my granddaughters. They're 17, 14, and 13. They're a mile from me, and we're always closer. So,
right.
But Tulsa is a wonderful option. It doesn't take that long to get over here anyway. About an hour and 50 minutes from my house, so I'll come when I need to and get to Norman and Stillwater and downtown OKC whenever I can.
Well, we wanted to talk to you for the spring football tour, get the lowdown on all the teams, and a lot of people think highly of Oklahoma State. I'm seeing them in preseason top 25s. I see people who think they could be in the conference championship game. But the one thing that I think they definitely have to answer is, how do they improve a pass defense that was ranked 126th? And I guess the question for you is that more a lack of pass rush? Is that a problem in the secondary, or is it all of the above?
No, they didn't really have a great pass rush. I think the secondary is probably better than the pass rush. I think it got better. They were playing a couple of freshmen in the secondary, good chunk of the season. So I think that'll be better. We'll see about the pass rush. The linebacking core is good. Maybe you need to blitz a little bit more. Colin Oliver's pretty good on the edge. So they probably got to figure out a way to put more pressure on the quarterback. But OSU is a team there's a lot to like about them, and there's some question marks about them, but they're really a unique team. In this day and age, to have 18 starters returning, in the old days, it's hard to have 18 starters returning without the portal, much less with the portal. But they literally lost no valuable players to transfer in the offseason after losing about 7 or 8 prime guys a year ago. So a lot to like about a team with this much experience, got a whole bunch of fifth-year guys, a few sixth-year guys, and 2 seventh-year guys. So they're older than a lot of I actually think their offensive line is older than the Thunder. I know that.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at the whole starting 22, but I mean, they got a bunch of 23-year-olds out there playing. So that's never a bad place to start when you're trying to win football games.
No, you look at them. I don't see how they're not the favorite, actually. I know some Utah people here are going to be mad at me for saying that, but when you look at what they return, and Gordon, the running back, the Doak Walker winner, 1,700 yards on the ground, 2,000 yards from scrimmage, and he's going to run behind a line that 7 have made starts, 6 red shirts, super seniors. Guys have 25, 40 starts and all this stuff. To me, if they don't get hurt or screw it up, they should be in the conference final. Now, the way that works is you don't have to finish first. You can finish second and just be fine. I mean, the Utes won the Rose Bowl. They didn't win the thing. They won the game in Vegas. That's all that matters. So you look at Oklahoma State, I can argue that they're expected to be – they've been a good program for a number of years, but this could very well be their best team.
Yeah, this is certainly a lot of things that get excited about going into the year. Now, the one thing about Mike Gundy is he often produces his better teams when you're not expecting it. So, that's a little bit of an interesting turn. The other thing about OSU is, and this is for the numbers crowd, but they won a bunch of close games last year, and that's often a sign that, you're not as good as you thought you were. So, and this is a team that lost to South Alabama last September. Not close, 33-7, if I remember right. So there are things that are question marks about them, but they do have a ton of experience, and they did win a bunch of games, and the culture of the program is very similar to the Utes in that they do win a lot. So, we've talked about this a lot with you guys. Last 10, 12, now 15 years, the second most successful program in the Big 12 is Oklahoma State. Not Texas, not TCU, not Baylor, not Kansas State, Oklahoma State. So, lots to like about them, but there are some question marks.
They did have success in the portal, bringing in Indiana's top running back, Trent Howland. But with Ollie Gordon there, is that just a sign they are going to run the ball a lot? Because Alan Bowman is a seventh-year quarterback. That's kind of a sign that you're going to lean on your QB. So which way is this offense going to go?
Yeah, they're going to try to keep running the ball. Now, what they found the second half of last season is people sold out to stop Ollie Gordon. He had more success early in the conference season than he did later in the conference season. So they're going to need Alan Bowman to throw better, to play better than he did a year ago. The one thing about an experienced quarterback is you figure he won't make that many mistakes, but his upside, his room for improvement is not great. When you go from your freshman to your sophomore year, you expect a pretty good jump. When you go from your sixth year in college to your seventh, you sort of what you have is what you got. And Utah knows that with Cam Rising, which is, music to their ears because they love Cam Rising. Alan Bowman, not quite as accomplished as Cameron Rising. So if he could play better, that would be a big bonus to OSU. And there are people who argue he will play better because he really hasn't played that much, but I don't buy that. I think he's made 24 college starts or 27, and just because it's spread out over 6 years doesn't mean that's a small number. It's still a massive number. In the old days of college football, it was impossible to go into a season with that many starts. So Alan Bowman needs to play well for the Cowboys just to relieve the pressure off Ollie Gordon. They brought in the kid from Indiana just to help out with depth. Gordon didn't get hurt last year. Generally speaking, your tailbacks get banged up pretty good. So they needed depth there. But, yeah, they need Alan Bowman to help out the Ollie Gordon show.
Did you see the story that Dick Weiser put out a tweet? The longtime sports writer, obviously covered college hoops, but he put out a tweet that there's discussions of Utah to the ACC. What would you think that would be about?
Well, I actually didn't see that. The ACC is an interesting place because it seems pretty clear now that something's going to happen with, it's a little bit of dangerous liaisons. You sit down to dinner and you don't know who to trust. You got Clemson and Florida State clearly on the, trying to get out. I assume they can, but I don't know. Nobody ever has. But it doesn't help that on the other side of the table, North Carolina and Virginia and, whoever else are sitting there trying to figure it out also. So if Utah had the chance to join the ACC with Cal and Stanford in a league that included Clemson and Florida State, they might very well try. But if I were the Utes, I would not be interested in an ACC that was losing Clemson and Florida State, because all of a sudden that league becomes pretty thin fast. They got a whole bunch of schools where nobody cares about football, and 20,000 people go to the games. Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, Boston College, Syracuse, the list goes on and on. So I'm not sure. I don't know anything. You guys would know more about it than I would, but the ACC would scare me to death if that's a place I was thinking about going.
I think the ESPN is going to try to prop up the ACC because they're making money off the ACC network. Do you think that would skew anybody's view at all?
Yeah, and they got that. ESPN has the sweetheart deal with the ACC, which is at the root of the problem, where they've got them locked in until 2036. We're still 12, 13 years away from the ACC contract finishing. So the back end of that is going to be a sweetheart deal for ESPN if they can keep that league together. Even if they had no Clemson and Florida State, it would probably be a good contract. So I think that is something you got to factor in. The ESPN, it's to the network's advantage if there are more leagues. ESPN and Fox sort of conspired to, get into the arms race for the SEC and the Big Ten. But the more leagues, the better it was for the networks. And when you get down to fewer conferences, then they have a really difficult time negotiating because they don't have anybody to play off of each other. That's what makes the NFL so great. You got one entity that you're negotiating with, and everybody wants it. So you got 4, 5, 6, and now 7, whatever, television or streaming entities going up against, wanting a piece of the NFL, and the NFL can just sit there and keep jacking up the price. And the more leagues that remain alive, the better for the network. So I can see why the ESPN would want to keep the ACC thriving to the best that it can.
What does Utah, or what does the ACC see in Utah, though?
Well, I mean, they're clearly by going out to the West, they know no geographic bounds, and Utah would be. Let me think about this. I think Utah would be right now. If they join the ACC right now, they'd be the 4th best brand in the league, I would say, maybe 5th. I don't know how they would see it, but when you look at, besides Clemson and Florida State, North Carolina's clearly a great brand, and then Miami still has lots of cachet, but that's a conference that needs schools that like football. That's what they need. The ACC is rapidly falling back to its basketball. If they lose Clemson and Florida State, I mean, they're an old-fashioned basketball conference, which is what they used to be.
Right.
So Utah would, Rice Eccles is full virtually every Saturday with, I don't know, is it 55 or 60,000 people? So that would be abnormal in the ACC. So now that we haven't talked about the geographic nonsense, but just from a television standpoint, that would be very appealing, I think, to the ACC.
Yeah.
I actually think if the Big Ten got back into expansion mode, which I don't know why they've ever got in there, but they keep doing it. I mean, I think Utah would be very, very appealing to the Big Ten if the Big Ten went wider.
Utah thinks the same thing.
Somebody like North Carolina and Virginia are very appealing to the Big Ten, but if you get a league with Washington and Oregon and USC and UCLA, in fact, if you held the truth serum, the Big Ten would have rather had Utah than UCLA, I think, but they needed UCLA to be a partner with USC, so it was never really a discussion.
To your point, I think the Big Ten is only out of the expansion game briefly. For all the things you listed about the NFL, with the previous commissioner, and now possibly with this one, they seem to be replicating that NFL model, selling their games off to 3 different networks. And if you're going to program all those spots, you need more teams. Have you ever heard anything about Colorado? Because I've read about Colorado to the Big Ten as a partner for Nebraska. I
have not heard that one. That's an interesting one, but I have not heard that one. Colorado is an interesting test case because of Deion. They went slumber for 20 years between Gary Barnett and Deion Sanders, but clearly they had some roots of fervor because you saw the fans come back so quickly. I thought it was pretty interesting, really, that Colorado was able to sort of do what it did with its fan base. And everybody gets fired up about Deion, but they still sold out this coming season. I don't think they're going to be very good. In the old days, Colorado had a robust program and lots of excitement and clearly a great market, great institution, all those things. But I've not heard that. I just don't know what Colorado's future is when you get past somebody like a Deion. Can they replicate that? I don't know.
Hit you up a little bit on the Thunder there. Obviously a little bit of a disappointment, but they're a team that's still on the come. We saw at the end that Giddey, who had some legal issues, obviously, was sitting on the bench. And Ainge is always looking to rip off people. What do you think is going to happen with Josh Giddey?
I think it's likely that he gets fired. Gets traded. Maybe get fired. I think he's going to get traded, and I think the Thunder will get whatever they can for him. And I think it's possible that they could get some pretty good stuff for him. Because in the right spot, he's a good player. He's just not a good fit with this roster because he needs the ball in his hands. He's a playmaker and very good, but SGA is the one that needs the ball in his hands more, and Santa Clara Williams needs it in his hands, and it just doesn't work all that great with Giddey. So I think he'll be traded. I think they won't get premium price for him. They're not going to get a stash of draft picks, but they might get something that you can use. So I think he'll be on the move. I don't know that the Thunder wants draft picks. I think they would be willing to send out some draft picks with Giddey for an elite player. My pick is Mikal Bridges if the Nets are trying to sort of restart and they do need draft capital. So I know everybody wants the Thunder to get a big guy, but put another wing out there that can really play and shoot, and then I think the Thunder is very, very difficult to guard.
There was a time when the Utah Jazz had a Knicks pick, and it was a favorite game. When are they going to get that pick? Where's it going to be? How good are they? And now I think we're getting to the point where Jazz fans are going to start doing that with Minnesota and Cleveland. Do Oklahoma City fans do that with the Jazz pick? Are they looking forward to maybe getting the Jazz pick in a good draft next year if the Jazz are near the bottom again?
Yeah, they become a little bit jaded on that. They got so many future draft picks, and they see so many so many times or often the team that's got a protected pick slides in where they don't get to use it. And they saw what happened with Dallas last year, where the Mavericks had Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic and ended up tanking the last 2 or 3 weeks and paid off for the Mavs, right? Getting I think it was the 10 pick, which means Derek Lively, one of the keys to beating them. So, and the truth of the matter is, with the Thunder, I assume it's this way with the Jazz too. It's hard to keep up. I mean, it's hard to keep up with the future draft picks because there's so many of them. They've collected so many, and some of them are multiple. Like, the Rockets ended up this year with they're picking third, I think. I think they end up with a third pick, and that's not their own pick. The Thunder ends up with a Houston pick, but Houston got it, I think, in the New Jersey trade. So even for people like me that follow it and are supposed to know what's going on, I have a hard time keeping up. So somebody like Utah, I actually think Utah is going to be pretty good. The thing the Thunder always talked about, Thunder fans, is how can we get Markkanen from Salt Lake City? And I always say, well, how about this? How about go back 2 years and remember when everybody around the nation was saying, it's time for the Thunder to trade Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So how do we get him from the Thunder? And everybody in Oklahoma would say, you're nuts. We're not trading the guy. And I say, I got to believe that's the way they are in Utah. They're not going to trade Lauri Markkanen for, 2 first-round draft picks and Josh Giddey. It's not happening. So, but that's the dream scenario for the Thunder is get a big guy who can shoot like Lauri Markkanen.
Barry, we'll leave it right there. How close are you to Tulsa now?
I'm in downtown Tulsa. So historic old city, cool place. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, good luck with the new job, and thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
You bet. See you guys later.
Barry Tramel, sports columnist for the Tulsa World, joining us right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, Steve Cleveland, former BYU and Fresno State basketball coach, joins us at the top of the hour. We'll talk NBA playoffs with him. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
We always talk about how NIL, it's the Wild West. It is, and that's a bad thing. There's not really anything out there that says that a coach can't just go around promising the moon to all these people, and then they show up on campus, and it's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's crazy.
This is exactly what we predicted would happen.
Yes.
We talked about this exact situation, and we haven't even gotten to the kids not paying taxes and a kid who's a first-round draft pick going to jail because he hasn't paid taxes on his NIL money. And that will happen, too.
I brought all these up. It will never be pay for play. It's just, give them $5 for every jersey that they sell. It's like, it's not going to be used that way.
It was never going to be Jimmer Fredette on campus signing autographs for 2 hours
but
to make.
That's what they sell.
To make $600.
Because that tugs at your heart, and you go, oh, that's not fair. Poor Jimmer.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Why don't you nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week? Submit your nominations at kslsports.com/contest. And then listen every Thursday afternoon for JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week. And it's sponsored by Hercules Credit Union and Beehive Meals.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We just talked with Barry Tramel. He had not seen the Utah might go to the ACC tweet from Hall of Fame sports writer Dick Hoops Weiss, but he did give the analysis of the two leagues. That make you think anything different than you already thought? Or the Big Ten looms over all of this and the rest of it's just details?
Well, I think the big-time issue here is that Utah has its sights set on the highest prize. And why not? Why shouldn't they? They obviously had conversations what would have been last summer about going to the Big Ten. They didn't get the invite. But they have a lot to offer. And they are a football-crazy place. We are. And does the ACC help you get there? I mean, right now, everyone's just sort of dating each other with no intent for long-term relationships.
Agreed. Everybody's waiting to see what the Big Ten does. I mean, the whole thing about we're going to stop at 16, they said that for about 2 minutes, and now they're clearly on their way to 20. But I don't think anybody who looks at this thinks they're stopping at 20. What is their end game? Is it 24, 28, 32? What are they doing? At some point, do they want to go out there and steal teams from the SEC? I don't know how many of those teams would be willing to leave.
What's the point?
The point, I think, is to build to be the league and dominate the United States.
But nobody wants one singular league. Even the big leagues don't have one singular league, even though they do. They have conferences, divisions, whatever it might be.
But it's all about the money.
Yeah, but you can't just have it yourself. You need you got to beat somebody. If you're your own league, how do you determine whoever wins the title?
They take the playoffs in-house. They have divisions.
Yeah, but I mean, then there's no point in having a regular season. Just cut right to January. And I don't see that. I think there'll be enough money to fill all the coffers with 2 leagues or 2 formations, whatever you want to call it. I don't see that.
I see that, but to the point about supply and demand and leverage, the Big Ten controls so much good inventory that they can cut multiple deals with multiple networks and or multiple streaming services.
They can do that anyway. The NFL's doing that. They've got like 5 deals, whatever they got now. Have to count them all up.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I think they have.
They could already do
7.
that. The Big Ten is not going to take over the SEC. They're going to coincide.
But will there be a big brother, little brother role?
No.
Okay.
Because there already is. It's no different. Indiana is not a big brother.
No, I mean between the 2 leagues.
Right. So, but there already is. They're already the top 2. Is there a big brother, little brother now?
Right now, I would say no.
Then what would be any different?
You get to 32 teams, you're on more networks, all that hype for your games.
You'll get that. But then the other guy will get it too. There's enough to go around. This isn't like the NFL, USFL, or whatever.
I don't think it'll get like that. Not in our lifetimes. The USFL.
Whatever it's called now. I don't know what it's called. I didn't watch 1 second of it.
The UFL. But I'm not watching 1 second either.
Yeah, whatever. I don't think it's going to be like that. They'll exist and they'll have 48 teams, whatever it might be, and they'll create their own division. I actually see them breaking away from everybody else and doing their own thing. And then that's when at that point, you take all these other non-rev sports, put them more geographic together, give them an opportunity to enter the tournament format at the end of the season so you can claim you won the national title.
That's where I think nobody knows how this is going to play out. Like, if some schools are playing baseball or volleyball players or whatever, $50,000 each or $75,000 or $100,000 each, and the other leagues aren't, how are you going to have a tournament where everything's a foregone conclusion early on, which is some of these sports they already are.
Well, then that's up to the individual schools. How much are they going to be committed to winning? That remains to be seen. What they do, that's up to them. So going forward on that, but I mean, there's going to be a salary cap, but there are going to be restrictions, and you have whatever the sport is. You have 500,000, you have 2 million, and you divvy it up as you see fit. It's sort of like baseball now. You get 11.7 scholarships. You divvy it up. There's certain regulations that have been passed. As far as what type of percentage you can get, and away you go. And then the ESPNs of the world are still going to buy that because it gives them some live programming that has all sorts of dramatics. The dog pile and just,
the catch at the wall. And
baseball lends itself to intense situations as the batter fouls all 5 pitches in a row with the runners on second and third and 2 outs in the last inning and you're down 1 and all that stuff, and it just builds. I don't think that'll change. The appetite by us as the consumer is not going away. It's only growing. And people are turning to it more and more, so they'll be able to do that And that's what I see, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a breakaway and the powers that be ran their football as they see fit in conjunction with the TV partners, and away you go. And Utah, if you want to go to the ACC in the short term, whatever you're trying to do, they know full well. If you accept Utah into your conference, and really at anybody at this point, BYU, the Chico State, it doesn't matter who it is. If you accept them into your conference right now, you know that if they get a better offer, they're gone. So we're not, at least now we're being transparent with each other and we're being honest. We're just trying to play you to get to a better situation. So there's nothing about
speed dating,
eternity here.
No, it's speed
this
dating.
Is not in.
It's for both Utah and BYU. It's now 4 leagues in 30 years. So the trend is clear.
Do you think that they're dating or just soaking?
Local reference.
Which I have no idea what soaking is.
Just move along.
I don't. I have no clue. I heard it in the fall for the first time. I thought, I'm not wasting my time with this, because it's like the Vegas date that you tried to sell that I never bought.
Super date.
Is that what? Yeah. Where they went down to Vegas for a weekend and annulled it on Monday. I don't believe that. I do not believe that happened.
Okay, every time you say that, I get emails from these people who are like, I work for so-and-so, and yes, it happens.
Why don't I get them?
Endless thing. I don't know.
You don't know?
You can have them.
I don't want them.
I don't want them either, but I'm going to get them.
The way you said it.
That was
the way
awesome.
you said it? I don't know.
I don't know.
When he said, you can have them,
Stop sending them
the
to me.
logical response was, I don't want them.
Listen, I attended that university. Super dates and soaking are not things.
See, I told you, he attended the university. I heard the term, and I never learned what it meant. I, to this day, have no clue what it meant.
And you're better off for it.
Or what it means.
Steve Cleveland joins us at the top of the hour right here on The Zone. Bill Walton. Multiple ties to Utah, a lot of memories from our listeners. We will get to that next. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
The Minnesota Timberwolves are in the Western Conference Finals. They've stunk forever. They're there. And you're thinking, wow, not only did guys on our roster help them get there, but you could win. They turned Minnesota into a winner. What are we doing? Why can't we do this? Why have the Jazz been in the lottery 10 out of the last 20 years? That sucks. This is not the standard of Jazz basketball historically that we've been used to. That's where it is right now. Here's the truth. This franchise is mid. It sucks. And I think people here are tired of it. I think people just don't really care. That's why everyone's so excited about hockey. It's like, ooh, hockey. Makes them forget about how mid the Jazz have been.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Don't miss your chance to win big every week on The Zone. This week on Win Ticket Wednesday, you can win a 4-pack of tickets to see the Fierce Fighting Championship 22 at the Maverick Center on May 31st. Listen to The Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win.
All right. I will get by.
Got a question on our Facebook page. Your thoughts on Bill Walton, who died at the age of 71. Player, broadcaster, personality. Kevin says, I liked his color commentary. He was very complimentary to the state of Utah.
Well, it's complimentary to everywhere, but certainly he was very complimentary for the state of Utah. He knew his older brother, who played in the NFL, was a lineman, roomed with Tom Homel's older brother in college.
Jason said the sports world lost a legend. I really love listening to him on broadcasts. He was over the top sometimes, and that's what made him Bill freaking Walton.
That's my point. He had to be over the top sometimes. In order to push the limit, you have to go over the limit. There's no way you can get to the limit and then stop every time.
Impossible.
Yeah. So guys like him who pushed it, you're going to be silly sometimes and not pay attention to the game. But that's the way okay, now I rein it back. You've got to go over the line. That's the only way you can do it.
Jazz fans remember him. Steve says, I remember him calling Clyde Drexler a horse that just doesn't work in the 97 series against the Jazz.
I don't remember that.
I don't either. But maybe we were at the game, so we just didn't hear it. And Mark says, uh-oh, as John Stockton was about to sink Houston's season and send the Jazz to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, people think that was a negative. It could have been a negative towards Houston. What the heck are you doing? I don't think it was necessarily a negative to the Jazz.
That's an excellent question. What were they doing?
Yeah.
Stockton is wide open.
Well, I mean, Barkley's bear wrestling.
I was going to say Malone just engulfed Barkley.
Yeah. Malone knew there's not going to be a foul called here.
They ain't calling this. I'm going to bear hug him.
I'm going to bear hug him.
Yeah.
However, whoever was defending Charles Barkley, need time for a switch maybe?
Yeah, well, he just kind of put his hands up in the air.
Put his hands up and took a few fake steps towards John and was nowhere near him.
And he hit the shot.
Russell, I loved his color commentary. He was a fan of the state of Utah. Always had little nice things to play about the U players. He did his homework.
Oh, he did. Yeah, you have to acknowledge that.
Multiple stories about that.
He knew seemingly everything there was to know.
About an area.
And personal lives that the kids wanted to be out there. And he was like the guy who stands up and gives a 30-minute riveting speech with no notes.
That is what he did.
Yeah, right.
If he had his notes, he'd commit them to memory by the time it was go time.
Right. Very, very impressive.
And there were stories from SIDs and from other broadcasters.
Yeah.
He'd call other people at ESPN who were from areas.
Right. But he knew about Moab, the arches, the beautiful drive up Sardine Canyon, or whatever it is.
Did you guys ever hear the one he did at the BYU game? This goes back 10 years. And in the middle of the broadcast, he goes, you ever heard of the Blue Henry Mountains? And he goes off for like 5 minutes on the last unexplored mountain range in the United States of America. I was like, how do you know this?
Right. Yeah. And he turned into a person that went beyond Bill Walton. Like he was the country's. He was owned by the country from that perspective. Greeted resoundingly positive everywhere he went. And he would love to go, and I don't blame him, to do like Arizona or ASU in the winter.
Okay, we'll get in line.
Well, but he'd be out there in the cactus, or he'd go over to the botanical gardens that's right across the bridge there, and he's as big as the cactus, and he'd hold his arms up, and he looked like he could match those cactus that had been around for hundreds of years, and he's just as big, and he really brought entertainment to the game. And he would say outlandish things. That's one of the 5 worst things I've ever seen that team do. Stuff like
the battle for first place. Throw it down.
There's ESPN has a 4-hour-long documentary on him, and they do a lot of different stuff in there. And you tour his house, and he goes back to UCLA, and they've got all kinds of video. And there's this one where he's watching basketball with his kids. And, of course, his kids grow up to be college players, a pro coach in one case. And they're sitting there watching, and the little gnats pop of the conversation intermixed with the interview is where, I forget exactly how you phrase it, Greg Ostertag is the most dominant center in the NBA. You hear all the kids like, Dad! Bill! Because someone called him Dad, but someone called him Bill. But they were all, oh, jeez.
They played that last night as soon as the Boston game ended.
Yeah.
They went right to it. So I had seen it, but I watched.
Watched some of it anyway.
He went to his high school coach's house and had his mother there, and he was. Yeah,
when he went to his mom's house. That was quite the flashback. That neighborhood, that is just so. I don't know. There's a time in my life and a time in architecture in San Diego where everything looked like that. That was just so weird. See him walking around there.
How cool has this been? Salt Lake City, why don't we just have every All-Star game right here? And this airport, phenomenal. Spectacular, incredible, terrific, empty the thesaurus, because you guys got it going here. The efficiency, the amenities, the cleanliness, the way you're moving all these uncountable thousands of people through here every day. It was just absolutely wonderful. Better than perfect. I can't wait to come back.
That was typical Bill Walton right there.
That was like the epitome of Bill Walton.
Well, that's entertaining.
Yep.
And as he's saying that, I'm visioning the airport in my mind. He's painting a picture for me. You know, we've all been to the new airport, right? And so as he was saying that, I'm comparing the old airport to the new airport. I'm visualizing what he's talking about. The restaurants, the stuff that they've got, that when you pass security, the whole bunch there. But then depending on, you go down, and you could eat at any restaurant, because if you're flying Southwest, by the time you get to the Southwest gate, you've walked it off.
Yeah, well, you needed 2,000 calories to get there.
You're not wrong on that point.
So you got all that
the
going on
concourse,
there.
man.
Yeah.
Just flew Southwest last weekend and got that.
And I will be flying it this weekend.
Yeah, from when my plane landed, actually hit the tarmac, until I was in the car with my wife picking me up. It was like 40 minutes. It just took forever. No wonder people drive to Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas is the limit, though.
Yeah, after that, you save so much time.
Yeah.
Right. One of the biggest what if they didn't get hurt stories in the history of basketball. Jared posted that.
Yeah, but I think that everybody understood. So it's not really a what if. You look at a Brandon Roy, what if? A Greg Oden, a what if?
Because they didn't get their MVP and their championship, and then he got a second one as the super sub in Boston.
People don't look at Bill Walton, what if. They know what would have happened. You see what I'm saying there? You see the difference? Everybody knows if he had stayed healthy, he would have been incredible, because when he was healthy, he was incredible. And he played in college, and he went 21 of 22 in a final game and all that stuff. It's a shame he didn't get that opportunity. He and us were robbed of that, but everybody knows he would have been phenomenal. I was driving home from St. George yesterday and had on the NBA channel, and they put one after another all these NBA players. They had Greg Kite on there, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's Celtic tie with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it was just, I get what he's saying, but we all recognized his greatness.
102 games in San Diego over 5 seasons.
Yeah, that sucks.
It's just awful.
Well, in Portland, they were 58-10 when he went down. I learned that yesterday.
They were about to go back-to-back, it looked like.
Yeah, for sure.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach, joins us next. Stay with us.